as I was coming in from outside into the hallway of my apartment, smelled gas, like a really, really powerful smell of gas. And I was like, that's not good. That's the opposite of good. That's the
really
opposite of what I want to smell outside. So I'm like kind of standing there and like stepping back and forth and like left and right, like kind of trying to like find where the smell is coming from, you know? And it is coming from a door or a window, I think. I didn't want to like get up on these people's open window and just start sniffing like right in it. But it was like 100% coming from their window. So I now go and knock on their door. Nothing, no answer. I'm like, that's not great. So I run down to the office, and I'm like, hey, this might be nothing, but there's like a really powerful gas smell outside over by this building. And they're like, oh, wow, okay. Yeah, thanks for the heads up. So I just go home. I just go to like my apartment in the same hallway. And they come and knock on my door like 20 minutes later, and they're like, hey, we just called the gas company because we found it and we don't know what to do. And they said to evacuate the entire building. So we need you guys to get out right now.
No,
and we're like, oh,
that's
cool.
Scary.
So sounds good. So that's been my day. That's been my last few hours. How's your day been, buddy?
A little bit more not eventful than that. I mean, my kids had some doctor's appointments today, and that was pretty eventful. But other than that,
I had a thought of because I have weird days off with my boss. There's like random days in the week, right? And I need to text him and say like, dude, if you hadn't given me Tuesdays off, some people might be dead today because of I happened to go get groceries because I forgot some groceries and walked back over, like whatever, you know? So I was cracking up, but also kind of horrifying a little bit.
Yeah, that's downright scary. I remember we got natural gas here in the house, and I come down one day and I smelled some gas, but it turns out my dog had jumped up on my stove and had turned on my burner on my stove.
What?
And it was just on. Like,
how big's your
thankfully
dog?
It lit. Like, he's like 85 pounds. He's big.
And he jumped up on the stove?
Yep.
That's
He's
crazy.
just up there looking for food and like dumb dog, and like, yeah, it like natural gas scares me half to death.
Oh, dude,
So,
it's horrifying, especially when you think about the kinds that are like the ones you can't smell or detect at all. Where they're like, if you're in this for like 3 minutes, you die. I'm like, cool. Also, yesterday I left the stove on for like 6 hours. Welcome to Attack Baron. We're gonna be having an episode today about stacking champions, just like how I stacked natural gas inside my. Nope, I was gonna say inside my body, but that's a different thing. That wasn't even a planned bit at all. I'm embarrassed.
That was Taco Bell you ate today.
That was a different. That's a third story. Gosh dang it, the flow is broken. I can't recover from this. I don't know what to do. Take it from me. Open the show. I'm leaning back. I can't.
All right. So yeah, we'll be talking about stacking champions today. But before we get to that, we have some housekeeping to take care of first.
Exactly. Yes.
So we have a Reddit. Go on there if you've got some long posts. Post them on there. We've got a Reddit. Join our Discord as always. It's a great community. It's where a lot of our fun stuff happens. Our tournaments, our friendly fives. A lot of just discussion in there and questions and all sorts of stuff that just goes on throughout the week. It's always active in there. It's a really great community. So if you haven't joined, go ahead and join. You're missing out on a lot if you don't. GVGs have ended, so the season's over now. Sadly, we did not hit top 50, so unfortunately.
But I would argue we maybe even got a better spot, truthfully, because we did. I want everyone listening who's part of the guild to know that we did hit the top 100, which is the top of 100. That's all. Like, you can take that however you want. We are at the top. So
we are.
Let that be a source of pride.
100. We are number 100. So, also our SVP of the week. This week is Ryder Stormwolf. He's super active in our Discord or in our guild specifically, but he's also in the Discord, and he's a support / jungle. He is master rank, and he joined I think back in May, but he I believe is a top 200 Leona as well.
That's awesome.
But
that's really cool.
Above all of his stats, he's also very active in our guild and always looking to grab a game with someone. I know I get invites from him for a lot. I'm sorry, Ryder. I don't play with you very much. I'm always seem to be busy whenever you ask me. So,
Oh, big man
um,
Starbuck. Too good. Only 200
uh,
Leona? I need higher. I need a top 50 or I don't queue up. Is what I is my rule. I'm just kidding. Just giving you a hard time.
uh, so yeah, I think that's it for housekeeping this week. Um, I know Houston, or I'm going to ask you, Houston, how was your week this week in the Rift? Did you play a lot? Play
In the
any?
Rift, I did not have a whole lot of chances to play this week. Um, I've been working a ton, a ton, a ton. I've played a few
Working,
like
man.
little friendly games here and there. I popped on 3 days ago just for like a quick ARAM in the morning before I went off to work. Um, so yeah, no, not a ton of playing this week. But it's been good. The games I've had have been good. I got
Yep.
stomped in one ARAM game and that wasn't fun, but that it's
Yeah.
ARAM, so it's okay. What about you?
Oh, for sure. And I've been actually ranking quite a bit this week. I'm
Awesome.
really looking to push for Masters here. I know, like, and it seems like I can't really. It's not that I can't climb by myself. It's just a lot slower by
It's so
myself.
hard.
So,
It's
so
so
I'm
hard.
like, forget that. So actually, me, that one girl, and Jury have all been ranking this week together, and we've been ranking quite a bit. We also did some five mans with Troll and Not Lowen as
Awesome.
well.
I love that.
So and
Have you been pushing any legendary queue at all?
no, I've been really focused on the Masters part of it first.
Yeah.
Um, I want to try Legendary Q, but I'm not just like super. I thought I was going to be more excited for it, but really once it came, just like I heard about like the toxicity and stuff in there where everyone's just
Yeah.
kind of yelling at everyone.
You want
It
your
didn't
chat
really
off. You want your chat
yeah,
off
I
at
was
all
gonna say
times.
it didn't really appeal to me too much, but yeah, I do love like the emblems and stuff that they give you for them are
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Like
Yeah.
those things look awesome. Like Vanquisher is like by far my favorite. It's
Yeah.
like the red. Oh my word, it looks amazing.
I actually in
Um,
concept I really dig how they're doing the timed slot for them. Like you can't
mhm.
play except for certain times of the day. I think that makes a lot of sense with the type of mode that it is and what you can achieve with it. I can't play it ever because of my schedule. Like
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm the whole second half of a day is I'm like pretty much toast and that is the only time it's up. So I'm I need to try to get a few because I've only played 3 games total. This is back before they just reworked it a little bit with the mastery
Mhm.
stuff, um, and I lost all 3. So I'm like the lowest tier on legendary,
I haven't
which is
actually even
cool.
played a game of it. I haven't even touched it
Yeah.
yet. So you've done more than I have. So
Oh, sadly. No, that's good. That's good. What's your current rank? Where are you at,
I'm at D2 currently, so
dude?
I think I
Nice.
have
You'll get there.
zero,
You'll get there quick.
zero pips. I think I just lost I got in and then lost a match. So,
No, you'll be
uh,
fine. You'll get there.
but yeah,
I won't even. You'll be fine.
we're we're on our way. Um, so this week we have what they refer to in League as stacking champions. And for people who don't know what like stacking means, a stack is just like whenever a champ has stacking built into their kit. It's just whenever a champ has a certain objective to complete, that once they complete it, they get a bonus something that makes them stronger. So, like, for example, like Shyvana, she's a stacking champion because as she kills things, monsters, champions, dragons, she gets stacks, and then she gets something extra for her ult.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then like Kale has got some a certain stacking built into her kit as well if she's like got from like levels 1 to 14, like she's got the whole 5 auto attacks and then it buffs you. It gives you like a certain buff. So like I think it's level 1, it like gives you a little bit extra damage or a little extra attack speed or something. Level 10's the big one where it gives you like after 5 auto attacks it does AoE, but then at level 15 it gives them all to you automatically. You no longer have to stack. But then I had another one. Aurelia. So Aurelia is another good example of a stacking champ. She's got her little ability thing where under her bar she's got abilities, and based on how many abilities she's used in a certain time frame, is what she gets for bonus attack speed.
Mm.
So, um, that's kind of like some examples of stacking. And then the ones we'll be talking about today, I have termed the infinite stackers, because like all those have like a set cap, like kill 5 auto attacks, you're done. Shyvana, once you hit 400 stacks, you don't get any more stacks. You're maxed out. I really, if you hit the 4 abilities, then you're done. You get what you get, and then once it does, it just resets. But Nasus, Cinna, and Veigar all stack infinitely. So
Well,
they, as you,
there's a lot to stacking in terms also of like there are some characters that have it incorporated into a move here or there, as opposed to some who have it as their entire kit, right? So they're
Mhm.
stacking all throughout this game, and like items stack. Items have opportunities to have this like stacking momentum. So like these are all things you need to keep in mind as you are like trying to get the most out of everything at your disposal. But what we're going to cover specifically are the characters that completely work around a stack, like what
Right,
that means, what it means for their progression, stuff like that.
yeah. Um, and yeah, like Houston said, even dragons stack, right? Because like you
Exactly.
kill one dragon, you get X, but then you kill two, they become better, right? So even dragon, this game has a lot. Wild Rift has a ton of stacking. How do you say that? Like stacking built into the game. Like it's
Hmm.
just kind of a core concept of this game. Um, so some of the things that you kind of have to watch for with these characters that have stacking that you kind of play around is that a lot of them do, because of the fact that they scale kind of infinitely. A lot of them do have a weaker early game. That doesn't mean they're completely useless in the early game. That just means they're not at their full potential yet in the early game. It can be kind of hard in this game, considering it's such a fast moving game, to be good at it. But I think with some practice and just some determination, really to try to get used to how these champs work, because they don't play like a normal champ. They
Hmm.
really don't, and it's just kind of, it's going to take some getting used to.
No, for sure.
Um, I'm sure that you've kind of felt this, because I don't know. I put this down, but I was like, I don't know if this is just a normal concept or not. But I feel like these stacking champs don't just automatically have some super strong late game. Even though they can get items and they can become
Right.
stronger, they don't just have like an automatically super strong late game.
I think a lot of that is what the nature of their abilities are. Like if you had like the level of stacking power of Veigar on like an ADC, for instance, that would be disgusting, right? Like you'd have
Mhm.
the output if like let's say Jinx had Veigar's ability of if every time she last hits a minion, she's getting one attack stack, like one attack damage or whatever, right? Like just the
Yeah.
percentages increase like between that, her items, whatever. This is a random off the top of the head example. Maybe it's a bad one, whatever. The nature of her character of go 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 is something that would completely abuse a system like that, where these characters are much more balanced in that nature. Like Shyvana is so crucial to so many objectives and making very specific plays with between her tankiness, her bulk, her engage. Like she can't just really be caught off guard, or her team's at now a huge disadvantage at pretty much any situation they want to pull off.
Right.
Um, Veigar needs to be, even at his most powerful, playing more as a control mage, more as like at the most midline. You don't ever want to go past that point. You can't just go,
Mhm.
go, go unless you're really stomping. There's very few times where you can just like, because you still have cooldowns. You still have all these other things to worry about. So even if you're completely dominant, you're usually pretty squishy, or you usually don't have the ability to completely dominate by yourself. Just because these characters
Right.
can become this disgusting level of power doesn't mean that they are unbeatable, and they're created that way by design.
Mhm.
Um, Nasus
And I
maybe
think
be the
that's,
exception if he gets up there, but he's harder to get up to.
yeah. Oh yeah. And I think that's kind of the appeal to a lot of these champions, and why a lot of people play them, is people are like, well, even if, if the game goes long, I'm just going to become so powerful, no one's going to be able to beat me.
Yeah.
Or, even like if I get ahead, I think another thing is like when these champions get ahead, it's hard for them to kind of lose their lead because of this stacking thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's, if they get ahead in stacks of where they're supposed to be, where like the normal baseline is, if they get ahead of that, it's they're going to become, they're going to become very strong. Just like if a Vayne gets a few kills early and that she gets some items early, like she is all of a sudden running the game. She is just like this unstoppable force at 10 minutes because she's got, 7 or 8 kills, just whatever. She's got a bunch of gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that stacking champions also take some practice because like these even though they might be straightforward in like the way that you play them, they're not just like super easy to execute. This you've got to be able to consistently execute your stacks throughout the entire game in order for these champs to work for you, in
And you
order
have
to
to have
get
a lot of
that
game
that
plans.
number
If
up.
you're behind in your stacks and the enemy is actively shutting down your stacks, you need to figure out how to deal with that. You can't just be like, well, we lose because I can't get my stacks. Like,
Hmm.
there's no game where you can just like, despite how bad pre-picking or banning or however that went, there's never a game where you should just throw your hands up and say, well, we lose. You shouldn't even try, right? There's always a game plan. There's always a loophole every single game. So learn
Right.
how to overcome those rather than just looking for your win condition specifically. You need to know how to get out of your lose condition because it's very clear what that is as a stacking champion. And if the enemy knows what they're doing, they're going to try and make sure you're in that position every single time because they don't want to deal with the top Shyvana. They don't want to deal with a powered up Veigar or an
Oh
unkillable
yeah.
Nasus. They're going to do everything they can to make sure you don't have fun. So it's you gotta figure out how to have fun.
Oh yeah. And also with these stacking champions as well, they because of their stacking mechanic, you're playing around a stacking mechanic, so you can kind of work them into like various different roles and different ways to play them because of this, because they're not played like a traditional character where
Right.
you're kind of rammed down this path of what your character does. As long as you can play around your stacks, you can do a whole bunch of different stuff with them.
Mm-hmm. So
So
dive
like
in, like dive into right into like Shyvana. Like give me a rundown of what she's doing, what she looks like. The bad of being a stacking champion.
So Shyvana is kind of like this jungler that needs power farming, and obviously in the meta right now where power farming is out, she's still very good because I think she's still overtuned. But basically, this action of stacking off of jungle monsters and stuff, she gets stacks and then stacks off of kills.
Mm-hmm.
If she doesn't get that going early, the first dragon fight is very weak. So I would say like if Shyvana gets going early, the first couple of objectives are kind of just going to be Shyvana's because she gets that first power spike at 100.
Yeah.
So power farming alone, you can get close to 100 before the first dragon spawns at 5 minutes. But if she gets behind, really you have to kind of stop playing her as an AD champ and just kind of play her as a more tanky engage, or possibly like or start building her more tanky and kind of put the damage to the side
How
and
important
then
are those
wait for
early
the
game
ult.
stacks for her? Is she looking to uh like if she doesn't get to that 100 before first dragon, are you like, hey, rest of the game I'm just tanky unless like some miracle and you happen to get ahead, or is it pretty behind
Um,
usually?
I would say that it's pretty behind. It's pretty hard to come back from not getting 100 before first dragon. It's
Mm.
not impossible. You can still like if you can clean up some kills and stuff, like you can still do it. And if you're close to 100, it's not impossible. But usually, what I see, whenever I'll go for a gank or something and it won't go my way, I'll end up dying. So I'll end up losing time where I could have been stacking, and
Mm.
then I'm so far behind, I basically become the tank and engage. But with that being said, she also does scale pretty well.
Yeah.
But um, the faster, because she works on that stacking scale, the faster she can get to 400, which is her max. That's like the max she's going to scale. As soon as she can get to that, she's like kind of reached her plateau, so to speak. And then her items just help her kind of keep up with the other champions as they kind of level up to 15 as well. So I would say Shyvana is just kind of one of those champs that if you get her growing early, she can snowball and take over a game really quickly. If not, she can still be useful, but you really want to get that snowball going early game with Shyvana.
Yeah, no, for sure. Um, what are some of like the hard plays that she needs to look out for? Like as someone who's looking for her stacks, is it like is your like early ward placement crucial? Like what is it helping you guarantee that you're getting your stacks?
I would say yes. Early ward placement or just enemy tracking the enemy jungle is really crucial for her early because she wants to be able to farm her entire jungle. She doesn't want to be invaded because she's pretty weak
Mm.
with the early invade. She can do things if she gets red buff going. She can kind of like some of the mid-level junglers. She can kind of hold her own against, but usually she's not looking for a fight to level 5, which I think the main thing is just only going for like 100% success ganks, like those ganks that are 100% chance of succeeding. If you don't have that, then don't gank, because I see so many times I'll go try to do a gank and I'm like, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to go do it because I think I can make a play and then I could get ahead. And, probably every 4 out of 5 times I'm set back,
Yeah.
because I tried to gank before 5. So I think in the early game, the wards are huge, tracking the enemy jungler, but also just realizing you need to hold your gank until level 5 at least. So
Everyone's been terrorized by Shyvana for a good minute now. So if the team is
oh,
coordinating at all and communicating, they're gonna probably want to across the board play it safe and be like, let
oh
it like
for sure.
draw her out, waste your time, because then they're completely down a player.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's
Um,
crazy.
so I know you main Veigar, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Veigar is your boy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your play style with him and kind of like how you stack, I guess. How like just take us
Yeah.
into it. You know him.
Veigar's interesting because I suck at last hitting a lot. But it's he's tricky, right? Because you have a lot of at your disposal to kind of bait in champions in the early game, like whether they're mage or assassin, to like come in close to you, play around your cage, hit them a few times, get cages. Those are opportunities to. I mean, because when you're landing last hits with your first or second ability with Veigar, you're getting a stack. If you're hitting an enemy champion with your first or second ability, you're getting a stack. Um,
Hmm.
so these add up quicker than you think, um, but they are not like guaranteed, I guess. Like it's tricky. It's tricky for an enemy to do it because I mean he's got a pretty good range of his abilities. They like one passes through, one drops down from above. Like he can hit a lot of multiple targets with his abilities. But
Right.
if a really good player is against you with Veigar, they're going to be trying to bait out your attacks. By like kind of setting up like a honeypot situation, like they want you to reach in and get stuck,
Yeah.
where you blast both your abilities at them specifically, hoping to get them, and maybe you hit them with one, so you get one stack. But in that time of your cooldown, you're now missing stacks for killing like 3 minions at once, getting all that gold, getting 3 stacks. Um, the worst
Right.
thing you can do while you're playing against Veigar, if you don't want him to get his stacks, is stand inside the minions. Just because his first ability is going to pass through one minion, hit the second, and not hit you, doesn't mean that you should be anywhere near them. His second ability is something that is going to kill minions, damage you, and give him more stacks. He'll try to set that up every time, and that gives him a lot of opportunities to cage, slow down the wave, trap you inside the cage. His early game is shockingly pretty good if you know what you're doing. Just the
Right.
damage output isn't great. But if you can poke and prod your opponent the right way, you're going to get your stacks, you're going to get your gold. Um, and I would say you want to aim for at least, like, I would say the average game you should aim for with Veigar is about 10 stacks a minute. Early game, you're going to definitely be behind that more often than not. But
Hmm.
after like minute 3 or 4, you should probably be at around 30 to 40 stacks, and be looking for team fights, specifically in the rivers. Roaming
Hmm.
around with Veigar isn't the biggest thing in the world. Um, but if you get assists with kills, you get 5 stacks. If you get a kill yourself, you get 5 stacks. So depending on team comp, depending on your situation, I'm not going to say whether you should get the kill or you should let someone else have it, because you are getting the bonus of the 5 stacks. But I mean, sometimes you need the gold, right? It just depends on the
Oh yeah.
scenario. It's hard to say exactly what that should be. Um,
I'm
but
greedy.
huh?
I'm a greedy Veigar. I'm a greedy Veigar.
Oh,
I played
same,
some
totally.
Veigar
Well,
earlier today.
I
I
just
was
kind
like,
of
no,
panic
my
and start
kills.
hitting all the buttons at the same time, and usually it works out. But while I'm saying like unless it's an incredibly aggressive ADC or solo lane and you have an opportunity to like cleanly get up there and interfere with the cage or something, or you've got a game plan together, I would say 99% of the time you don't want to do that. Even if they're being aggressive most of the time, it takes a very clear communication and a very specific plan. But you want your rivers warded. You want eyes on the jungler at all times. Something I do a lot for some extra early stacks is depending on what the enemy does when you watch them, is when I spawn, I always run up to, well, maybe I shouldn't say this for friendly fives, but I always run up to the same bush. And if no one drops a ward in that time, like the one right at the river on the left side of the mid lane, you know what I'm talking about? Like there's that little bush right there. Not right in the middle of the river, just like on your end. And if no one places a ward, I always run up after, and I always drop a ward in the crows. I do this in about 99% of my games, ranked, whatever. And then you just go up while the enemy jungler is farming the crows, and then you drop your second ability in there, and you steal the crows, and you get stacks. You get like 5 stacks, you damage the enemy. It's awesome. You get tons of gold. You deny them gold. It's hilarious every time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunities, despite how incredibly weak Veigar is in the early game, to get these stacks and to manipulate not being able to be that powerful of a champ because he depends on them.
Right.
You just really want to be very deliberate with every single one of your abilities to make sure that you're stacking things correctly. And then I guess when you're ahead, like, I mean, well, I don't know what more there is to say. Like, just do what you do with Veigar, but now you kill people. Like, that's like literally it.
Yeah. Just the one shot king, just like cage. Yeah. If you get stuck in the edge of the cage, if you don't have the Quicksilver enchant, you're just pretty much dead.
Yeah, and no one really brings it. I gotta say, I don't see Quicksilver very often. I feel like. But yeah, in terms of stacks, I think the most important things to take away are in the very early game. Make sure you are always warding up to the best of your ability, like making sure you're like, okay, the enemy's playing so and so, they usually path this way, or because of who the enemy champion or who our champions are, they're probably gonna like come to my lane. Like you just want to be sure to interfere. Like you want to like make sure someone's looking at the scuttlers or checking on them at all times, because you want to be there in like a mini team fight with Veigar in the early game almost every single time. Your cage can flip the fight. You'll get tons of stacks if you end up on top of that. It's awesome. And then if you're behind with Veigar, if you find yourself in that type of position, it really depends on the situation with your jungler. If your jungler's doing well and not like completely power farming, like trying to get back into the game, take some jungle. Like obviously communicate it. Don't just go stealing. But a lot of junglers will even randoms have proactively messaged me and said like, hey, Veigar, I'm going to leave the Krugs. Go get the Krugs. I'm like, okay, perfect. Yeah. Like that's great to hear. If you know the location of an enemy jungler, don't be afraid to take enemy Krugs. Looking to steal enemy jungle camps, like I kind of talked about being a little, I can't say that word, being annoying and stealing enemy crows at the very beginning of the game, but having eyes to safely get as much gold and kill as many mobs as possible at all times with Veigar. Like, you just don't want to have any downtime. Every moment should be either setting up to get a lot of stacks or progressively clearing waves to push towards a turret, be getting stacks. Like, you don't want to be waiting in a bush pretty much at any time. You want to be moving around, actively kind of manipulating, controlling the map with your team fights, all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
because like even like if you're hitting champions, right, with his abilities, you're gaining stacks.
You are, but you're only getting one, and with the cooldowns, it's really like it's a nice bonus, right? But there's not like you don't want to sacrifice other things unless it's like an important team fight, obviously. But like early game specifically, if you can hit the champion on top of getting your stack, bonus. Or if you're trying to set up for a kill that you can get, like bonus, right? But you wanna be getting your stacks in the most reliable, consistent. Your consistency is key with stacking champions, and that is not an exception for Veigar. If you can't consistently get high stacks in your games, you got to figure out how to do that, because that is the character. You need to get this to hit that power spike, or you're not going to be having fun. Because Kha'Zix will just start leaping out of the woods and killing you in one hit, and you can't kill him in one hit, which then feels like cheating. So you kind of get a taste of your own medicine, but it sucks. It's not fun.
Today I was playing and they had a Master Yi, and basically he would get on top of me and I would just sit there in one spot, put my little meteor right on top of myself, so when he comes out of his S1, it just drops, and then I just hit all the other buttons and hope it kills him.
Yeah. The worst is when he's at a big enough power spike that sometimes you time that right, you think, but then he hits you once when he comes out, and then he just disappears again, and you're like, cool. I will say if you want to be proactive, I guess I'll just add this really fast because I don't feel like I see any Veigar players do this ever. But if you're in a bad matchup, Yi, you can win every single Yi fight if the Yi is aggressive and you are playing around your cage. If you set up your cage like kind of bait him into engaging, goes for Akali. This goes maybe not for Kat. She's trash. I hate her. But everyone else who's fast and aggressive, bait them out. If you can take a hit or two, or do whatever you can. Save your cage. Don't be so hasty with it. Don't throw it out way off in the distance. Hope it grabs him and try to run your butt. You're tiny. You're not going to make it. You need to drop that right on yourself and especially with you need to land yourself right in the line of the cage at all times.
Right.
This isn't a stacking thing. I just have to get this off my chest. You can win against almost any assassin because they want to be right kissing you. If you just throw up your cage as they engage and you are standing in the line, then you can blast them to kingdom come and you'll win way more often than you think. I've 1v1'd a lot of assassins inside the cage, but when I looked like they had me without a doubt. And it is a very consistent thing you can pull off if you are waiting for the right opportunity or you know that you are not going to be wasting your abilities. It is, anyway, that's a tangent, but please, I'm sick of spectating games and Veigar's throwing cages to the wind because that's me. That used to be me. It's not good. It's never going to help you out.
This is why Houston's now a master.
It's not. It's luck. It's pressing the funny ultimate button and letting my team do all the heavy lifting.
That's how I feel in most of my games. I've been playing Shin jungle lately, and literally that's what it feels like.
Who?
Like literally. Shin, yeah, Shin jungle.
That's awesome.
Anyways, yeah, that's the whole thing. Anyways, but I was even thinking about it, like those team fights, you're gonna get a lot of stacks from those because
tons.
Not only do you get a stack per ability that you hit on an enemy champion, plus if you guys get a kill, you get five extra stacks. So you're talking, even if Veigar hits every one of his abilities, does the cage count as a stack if they run into the cage?
No.
It doesn't.
It's only the first two. I don't even actually know if the ult does. I've never looked at my stacks to see if did I get one stack? Because I'm hoping they died in that moment and I'm freaking out and trying not to die myself usually.
I was gonna say the only thing it says, right. But yeah, the only thing it says is hitting with the spell, so I wasn't sure on those ones. But yeah. Anyways, so you're gonna get extra stacks plus the 5 stacks. So you're talking a short team fight, you're gonna get 10 stacks pretty easily.
Well, think about a full team fight. Think about an early game wipe. Those are fairly common, ish. When you can wipe a whole team and it doesn't mean the end of the world for them. That is something that you've hit them with a few abilities. Let's say your second ability hit 3 people. That's 3 stacks. You kill the entire team. You get the assist on all of them because it was a big team fight. You're looking at a minimum, just in that one example, 30. You didn't land any other abilities at all. That's 28 stacks if you got the assist on every single one. 28 stacks. That is 3 minutes worth of your time in the game.
Yeah.
Exactly. Of how you need to be scaling. Again, if you're doing things right, I would say I've had games where I feel like I've been playing fairly well, but the team difference has been pretty dramatic, and I haven't been able to quite keep up to the 10 a minute. But that is, if you can consistently do that, you're in a pretty good spot with Veigar, I would say. You will quickly find yourself getting to pretty often 30 to 40 stacks ahead of the time pretty consistently if you are learning how to use him in the late game the right way, I guess. And not being afraid, even if you're ahead, to grab some jungle, making sure you're grabbing some enemy jungle. If you are late game and you can go just steal some Krugs with 2 abilities, the entire Krugs, that's 10 stacks. Wait. Yeah. It's 8 stacks. But that's still a lot. That's a lot of stacks. That's almost a minute's worth of stacks. That's tons. So just be very proactive, be very thinking outside the box and be doing it as safely as possible. It'll take some time, and this is probably where the mastery with something like Veigar comes, because his kit is so simple. But you'll get it, and it'll change your game astronomically as you start thinking about your progression differently and trying to hit that average above all that. Like, it's like, okay, I want to win. Top priority is win. Second priority above anything else is keeping that 10-minute average, because if you're keeping that 10-minute average, chances are you're becoming a threat to the enemy team and therefore helping your team progress, because then your other members are able to do other things as well.
Right.
So aim for that average above all else.
One more quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Support Veigar. What
Tried
do
it
you
once.
think?
So I'm not the expert on it. I could see it working. I really could. I tried it a long time ago, and I just really haven't, like, I don't know. I have other support champs that I really like. So when I get that role, I tend to go there. I know he doesn't quite get as beefy. I've seen people build tank with him and then just really focus on landing those enemy champion stacks. So you're really relying on assists, I would imagine. Like, when I'm thinking about one stack a hit, like, at most of every exchange, you're going to get 3, right? Like, let's say you hit both champions with your first ability, passes through, and then your second ability hits both of them while they're trapped in the cage, but neither of them die. That's 3 stacks. That's not a lot, and you can't steal minions.
Right.
So it's tricky. It's a really tricky one. If you're building tank, truthfully, Veigar is so powerful with his cage. Like, that is so much of his kit, is the utility of that and using it correctly, that he's gonna be fine. He'll still be relevant in a team fight pretty much no matter what, if he can get one of those off in a good way. But that being said, the power scaling is something that is, like, I mean, if you get snowballing, if you start getting assists, if you got an aggressive ADC and an aggressive jungler and you pulled that off, you could definitely become the craziest threat of a support in any game. Like, you just be the other team's nightmare to be a support and being able to be a very powerful Veigar by late game. But if you can, like, last the game a long time, and if you start being able to branch away as a support, go steal some jungle. If you've got your Luden's Echo, or you've already grabbed your Radabans, you're gonna have that power spike because of the percentage of those of Radabans specifically. At least a little bit. So go get some jungle. You can get back into the game. But I would still say definitely stick mid. I can't imagine not doing it with the minions. Truthfully, it would just be tricky. So that's my best advice.
Yeah, maybe
there.
just a lot more roaming. Like,
with
I
support,
guess you would have to roam.
With support, there's a lot more roaming, you would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I truthfully, I don't like. I would think so.
It's like,
he's so hard to roam with because he just dies in 2 seconds. If they have any kind of assassin on the enemy team who is worth like half their salt, like, I think that's how you say that. If you roam at all with Veigar, that Kha'Zix, whoever it is going to be on you in 2 seconds, getting free gold. And it's just so, and even without, like, if a Nunu ran into an early Veigar, just with a big snowball, Veigar's going to lose that every single time if he's the support one. If he's alone, he's toast. There's nothing he can do.
Oh yeah. And I could running through the river and stuff might not be such a great idea.
Yeah, and he's not quick. He doesn't like. He's hard. He's hard in support, not undoable. I would say, in my experience, there are way better support champions out there that are going to do a lot more consistently for your team in a support role than Veigar. But I mean, hey, if you can prove me wrong and pull it off every time, do it, because that would be amazing. He would be horrifying.
All right, well, is that it for Veigar?
Yeah, I think so. I went off a little bit there. Sorry, that was like a
that
was a whole episode.
It's the reason he's your main.
Yeah,
there's a reason we had you do this guy. All right, as soon as I find Cinna here, we'll get started on her. I cannot seem to find her. There she is. Okay, so Cinna is another stacking champ that stacks off of souls. And the souls, they drop by killing enemy or just units dying in general. So, like, if champions die, they drop a soul. If red buff or blue buff dies, they drop a soul.
She doesn't have to touch him at all?
No, well, they do. She has to shoot them to pick them up,
Okay.
but they drop the soul, and then she has to shoot them to pick them up.
Interesting.
But so red and blue buff drop a guaranteed soul. The major objectives drop 2 souls guaranteed, so all the dragons drop 2 souls, and then Rift Herald will drop 2 souls, and Baron will drop 2 souls. And then every champion, if they die, will drop 2 souls, or will drop 1 soul as well. And then there's kind of like an RNG aspect of it with the minions and other small creeps. Everything else that of the enemies that dies will drop a soul or can drop a soul, but like it's pretty like random.
Mm.
So it kind of seems, I guess, cannon minions are guaranteed to drop a soul if you do not last hit them. So that's why she's a support, is because if she hits them, the chances for a soul drop go down to like next to nothing.
Yeah.
But if your ADCs land the last hit on the minions, then she's got a better chance of a soul dropping that she can then pick up and gain a stack. So
I feel like real quick, this is a perfect example of what I was just saying. Like this is a champion who is much more reliably going to scale as a support into being able to do some damage and kind of be a member of the team in that type of sense in the late game, as opposed to like some of these trickier supports that, because I've seen Nasus support, it's not good, but you can do it like if you go AP, right? But it's like there's just better choices.
For sure. And you know, her stacking, every stack that she gets, every soul that she consumes, gives her 1 attack damage. But then she's got kind of an alternate thing with stacking, where every 20 stacks that she every 20 souls that she picks, she gets 15 attack range and 15% critical strike chance. And then and that just scales infinitely.
Which I didn't actually know that.
But
I didn't know those numbers. That's crazy.
yeah, it's kind of nuts whenever you start counting your stacks, because by the end of the game, you know, you could have 120, 140 stacks, you know, pretty easily.
Yeah.
But then crit rate as well for her is converted into physical vamp. So the access 35%, I believe, is what it is. Yeah, 35% of access crit rate is converted into physical vamp. And then also her crit does only 50%, so it only does an extra 100% instead of that normal 200%.
Right.
So of the normal damage, because since she gets it passively, and you don't have to build it. So with that being said, her build that she builds for support is obviously different than any other like support. She really is. She's got this ADC support vibe to her, which is really interesting. It's like, whenever I was starting out in the game, basically Cinna was my go-to for if I got pushed into the support role, because I couldn't trust my ADCs to carry. So I was just kind of this support who Cinna does both healing and shielding. She's got a root, and she's got this little thing, this mist pool that creates an invisible spot for where you can get people in and out of situations. So she really is providing a lot of utility for your ADC.
Yeah.
But you don't have to sacrifice the ability to be able to do damage in order to play her. Versus, like, I think kind of like Brand and Lux kind of sacrifice on the utility side in order to put out this damage. Well, Cinna doesn't really have to sacrifice the utility to put out the damage, but the damage that she puts out is dependent on stacking.
And even just the range of having someone like Senna, like her early game range, just the extra pressure she can apply to that early game ADC stuff is she's such a powerful champ. Like it is continuously pretty mind blowing that I don't see her more often than I do, and I feel like I see her a lot. She's so good. She's such a good champion.
And it's kind of interesting. I think she's kind of she's like in an okay spot. I don't think she's in a bad spot, but she's not really in a good spot either. So that might be kind of contributing to why we don't see her as much. But
if she's in too good a spot, it's miserable. It's not. She just sweeps, and it's like your support. Stop doing this.
I was gonna say, right before I got on here, I played a Senna match. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna brush up on this a little bit and just make sure I kind of know what I'm talking about. I don't want to be feeding you guys a whole bunch of lies. So, but I basically went in there, and my ADC ended up being not very good. I don't know like what rank or anything like that, but like just not having a good game regardless.
Right.
But I was able to effectively be the damage dealer in our lane, and it was with an Ashe. So Ashe was still slowing, so she still provided some sort of help to me, but like it was very evident that I was becoming the carry, and it's kind of just kind of like a weird game that was just like perfect scenario for
Right.
what we've been talking about. And I will say like her being this support and stacking champion, she's got obviously with the gaining crit with the stacks, she's got certain things that she just uh doesn't build. She doesn't build crit. Now, that's not usually something that you build other than maybe rapid fire cannon, but that's because of the passive that
Right.
you get the extra long range. And actually that extra long range, you can actually pick up souls to your new range without expending that extra long range
Oh,
shot.
that's cool. That's
So
cool.
yeah,
I love
it's
that. I didn't
very
know that.
helpful. Um, but oh, and also, she can also gain a stack if she hits an enemy twice. So like she can auto
Oh.
attack them, and then her S1 counts as applying on hit effects. So like she can either auto attack them twice, or she can auto attack and hit her S1, and she'll get a stack of
Mm.
soul off of that. So that's kind of like her basic combo in lane is she'll auto attack you and then hit you with the S1
That's freaking cool.
to,
I feel
to
I've
gain a
honestly
soul.
never played her, and I'm not even gonna joke. Like I just listening to this makes me want to try her out. I'm not like exaggerating at all. That like sounds really fun. A lot of like
She
you have options of like what do I want to do here.
Right. And that's the thing is like her build is that way too. If you want to get better at your ADC build items, play her. Because
Yeah.
like after her first item, like even her first item, really, it could be one of two things. If you're going for like a more like caster marksman type deal, you could build Manamune first to get the extra mana and stuff so you can have more abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're going more support, you can also go Black Cleaver, which gives you bonus health, but also it gives you the thing where you can stack and take their armor away.
Yeah.
And you don't have to sacrifice, you're not really sacrificing anything because you're a support. So you're lowering armor for them. But then like you can build Iceborne Gauntlet on her because she's constantly hitting abilities. And then the Sheen proc as well and you get the big ice ring. Um, you can build if you need to build if you've got like problems with people shooting like binds at you, if you've got a luck shooting binds at you, you can build like an Edge of Night with her. It's fine to build. You've got ability penetration plus you're stacking AD. It's just kind of like after like the first item, you just kind of build whatever you need in the game.
Mm.
So she's just like a very very champion because her stacks give her what she needs. She gets
You
extra
want to be as
range
varied as
and
possible.
she
You want to
gets
know your
crit.
items.
Yeah. So um, it's super super fun to play her as a support. But as a support, you're basically looking on her to land your combo, your S1 and auto attack combo as much as you can. That's your poke. That's also how you get souls and you stack. Um, I will say I like to go to red buff and give if the jungler goes for red, I like to stay at red buff and give a really long leash to them just because I know our lane has the potential to be weak because of the stacking champion thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
our lane does have a potential to be weak. So, and it also drops a guaranteed soul. So
Yeah.
I'm not really losing a whole lot as a support going there. Sometimes your ADC will flame you, but as long as you kind of like tell them that you're going to do it, it's fine.
Yeah.
But that's what I like to do kind of early. And then basically her whole thing is shielding and sustain kind of a deal.
Right.
So like you need to be like looking for opportunities to use your S1 because it also does a healing. Her S1 is like a line shot that does healing, but it also does damage. If it hits an ally, it does healing. If it hits an enemy, it does damage, right? And then she's got like a pool that she shoots out, which is more utility that if it hits someone after a short delay, it roots everyone around them. And then she's got her invisibility pool, which is super nice. She puts a pool down, and like anyone that, or she's not a pool, it's like an area around her that basically like it's darkness, and any champions that are inside there you can't see them, so you could have the whole team in there and they wouldn't have any clue that you're coming.
Right.
You can walk across wards. I'm thinking you could even walk across pink cords, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I know the one in the river doesn't affect it, like
Mm,
the scuttle one doesn't affect it. Um, but it's super useful. And then her ult is a universal ult anywhere on the map, and it applies a big shield and then does damage. So with her, you're just looking to scale into the late game, stay alive. That's the big thing, and get the souls so you can basically build your items to be helpful or whatever you need in the game, so
right.
you can basically
Whatever she
do
needs to
what you need
carry.
to do. Yeah. So Cinna's a great champion that I love to play her, but like I don't get a whole lot of chances to play her because I'm a jungler, so like
Yeah.
I don't. They don't ever switch you off of the. If you've got jungle for your ranked thing, they don't ever switch you off of that. So, um, I don't get to play her a lot, but when I do play her, I do enjoy it. So,
It literally feels like we haven't been talking about this very long at all. Um, but we've literally been talking about it for almost an hour, which is wild.
oh
Um,
my,
I think that we hit a very good diversity of like, because like I think about oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? Thresh. Thresh is kind of he's got the Senna thing with the souls a little bit, but
mm-hmm,
he also kind of
yep,
has the more like a very specific thing that his souls do, right? He's got gets
right,
a little bit more armor, gets a little bit more damage, but he does it as a support. Just has to make sure he's picking up those souls as he goes along to be able to get continuously stronger and more beefy for his team. Um, Nasus, I feel like, is one that is just like Veigar, truthfully. It's just the opposite end of the spectrum. Veigar is all damage, he stays squishy.
mm-hmm,
Nasus can kill you in one hit, which is sad, but he also gets really beefy, right? He can get
right,
unkillable with his stacks. Um, it is a very broad range of what League has done with their stacking mechanic in this game. And again, in big ways and little ways. Jax is someone who wants stacks in the moment. He wants to be able to bring.
yep,
Until they nerfed his jungle, one of the most common, and they could unnerf it, so it's good that everyone knows. He could go into the jungle, build up as much speed as possible with his stacks, leap over a wall into a fight, and hit you at 1,000 miles an hour 10 times. And then you would just die, and you didn't know why.
yep.
Um,
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I was just thinking about that too. I was like, they're like though Jackson and Aurelia are two that want to basically build up their stacks before they get to the team fight,
absolutely.
or as they're going into the team fight. They're like, all right, I'm already at max stacks. I'm already getting out a ton of damage before I'm here. So,
And
yeah.
there's a lot of champions that aren't, like, you could argue that Jax isn't completely built around that mechanic, even though he kind of is a little bit. Um, but the focus of this episode was definitely champions that they don't really have an option. It is their stacks or nothing, unless you do different builds. Like we said earlier, there's like AP Nasus is something you can do that works pretty
Mm-hmm.
effectively if you do it right. So there's other options for things, but there is a very clear mechanic in Wild Rift that Riot has put in that is very much worth learning. You need to learn what your champions can do, what items you're using that have stacks that you need to be paying attention to, um, and being able to make the most out of that, because that is what is going to change your games for any character that has to rely on this kind of stuff. If you're Jax
Oh
and
yeah.
you're not, like, imagine, let's say even in this one character who there's an argument that his role with stacks isn't full criteria for this subject. If he jumped into that same team fight without building up his speed first, how quickly is he going to go down and then not provide his team the window to win the team fight and then win the game, depending on where it is? You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
understanding what your champion can do with a buildup of what they can uniquely do is going to
Mm-hmm.
absolutely change your game. And I do think that the three main ones we hit, truthfully, are like a very good spectrum of like maybe some of the main avenues of how these can go.
All right, guys. So we were also going to talk about Nasus in this episode, but Fiasco had some last minute stuff come up and wasn't able to make it tonight. And he's kind of our Baron Lane guy. Me and Houston were going to try to still cover it for you in this episode, but to be honest, me and him don't play this champion a lot, and it just
Ever.
come a lot better from
A lot means
someone.
ever. I've
Yeah,
never I've never even
Houston
taken him into
never.
practice.
So like we don't want to just like give you something half baked here, so we're just gonna hold off on him. But he is another stacking champ that's great in the Baron lane. It's still a pretty strong pick right now. But he's another one of those where he stacks up. And anyways, me and Houston just we could force this, but we really just don't want to do that to you guys.
It would turn into a madman's raving about how this big dumb dog becomes unkillable by minute, what, like 13 every single game? And you're like, cool.
Exactly.
You know what? March right in, buddy. It's all yours.
Game over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so we'll leave that for another episode, guys. So, but with that being said, I think we're gonna wrap it up for this episode. So,
yeah.
Thanks everyone for coming out, for checking us out. The video. We are up on YouTube now, so this will go out. It's the exact same podcast, but with faces.
Yeah.
So you get to see all of Houston's facial expressions as I say stupid things. You get to see them go, you have no idea what you're talking about. And then
that's my
you
brain.
get to see me talk with my hands the whole episode.
That is not anyone here. That is, though, you can track when I've taken my ADHD meds, and that's my brain wandering off somewhere else. There is literally no correlation, I guarantee you, between anything my eyebrows do and anything anyone has ever said on this podcast. I promise. Again, thank you to everyone who has been participating in GVG.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't hit top 50, top 100 is stellar. If you think about how many guilds are out there, how many players are playing Wild Rift, top 100 of NA server is like a big deal. That's pretty sweet. So you guys should be super, super proud of that. Super grateful for everyone in the community who worked their butt off to keep that going. And we'll get them next time. But until then, I think that this is us signing off. You can see our Twitters. I pointed right. Cool. Right here. Yeah, you did too. Oh, that's neat. Let's leave these guys to it, to stew on all that good stacking info, and let's get on the Rift.
I need to go get masters. Let's go.